And what's going on YouTube? It's your guy Darren, the Bowtie Fragrance Guy, the channel where we talk about fragrances and we talk about fashion. So if you like fragrance related content, fashion related content as well, you may enjoy the content on this channel, then I offer you or extend to you the opportunity to click the subscribe button. And also make sure that you take a second to click the bell icon as well to try to ensure you get notified when I upload new content on the channel, because sometimes YouTube just does not notify you. So I don't even know if the bell will work, but hey, it's worth a shot. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about one of my absolute favorite notes in fragrances, period. I love the note of rose. Now, when I first got into fragrances, I did not think that this would be a fragrance note that I would come to enjoy, because I just really kind of dismissed it and felt like rose was a feminine note and it wouldn't be something that I could vibe with, but boy, was I wrong. I was introduced to a fragrance called Lyric Man by Omiage, and from that point in time on, I really fell in love with the note and have really come to appreciate it and love it in fragrances. Now, I'm going to be featuring 10 of my favorite fragrances with the note of rose in my collection, at least. Now, I know there's others out there, and you know, I feel like it's crazy that reviewers have to make the disclaimer that, you know, I'm not saying these are the best in the world, but of my collection, these are the 10 best. Now, I know there's other great ones out there, and that's where the comment section comes into play. If you find that there's some other great ones that I may like, make sure you leave those down in the description. But as of right now, in my collection, these, in my opinion, are 10 of the best rose fragrances on the market today. That's what we're going to be talking about. So if you like the note of rose, you're going to be in for a treat. Men and women alike should be able to appreciate this note, because most of these fragrances, men and women both can wear. So if you want to hear what made this list, 10 of the best rose fragrances in my collection, then you know the routine. Keep it locked right here. All right, guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Let's go ahead and jump right into this list. I'm not going to even waste your time, man. Let's go ahead and get into it. The first fragrance on the list, this comes in the 10th spot, and this one is from the house of By Killing. It's a more recent release, and this one is called A Kiss from a Rose. A Kiss from a Rose. Now, this fragrance, unlike most of the other fragrances on this list, is a very green rose. This one is the most floral to me of all the other fragrances on the list. Now, typically with the note of rose, you like perfumers like to use really heavy, warm notes like leather, oud, saffron, especially if oud. Of course, you know, rose oud combination is the most common. But in this one, it's very different, because you find none of those notes in this particular scent. This one, like I said, is more about it's like a fresh green rose. So you don't get, you know, that oud or saffron or leather that you're probably accustomed to seeing that's used in combination in most fragrances that feature prominently the note of rose. But man, it's still really good. Now, there's a note of jasmine in here, jasmine sambac, which to me is like a amped up jasmine note. So the jasmine is really heavy in this as well. So of all the fragrances on this list, this one leans the most feminine. But as I always say, guys, if you dress like this, certainly this is one that you can pull off. So if you like a really fresh green rose, then this is one that you may enjoy. So from the house of By Killing, number 10 spot goes to A Kiss from a Rose. All right, guys, now coming in at the 9th spot on this list, this one is a fragrance I haven't talked about as much as some of the others on this list, but nonetheless, beautiful rose fragrance from the house of Atelier des Ors. This one is called Rose Omiage. This one is called Rose Omiage. Now, anytime I talk about a fragrance from this house, I have to shake it so you guys can see those beautiful golden flakes that's floating around in this fragrance. I think that's a really nice touch to this fragrance. But anyway, this one, man, very unique note in this one, which is a note of brown sugar. Now, that brown sugar accord in this fragrance gives this one a uniqueness that really separates it, differentiates this fragrance from a lot of the other ones on this list. Now, once I really started getting into rose fragrances, I really found that, very interestingly, another note that seems to be used in combination with rose a lot, a fruity note called raspberry. Now, there's another fragrance that I have that did not make this list called Vain and Naive from Nichane. This fragrance reminds me a little bit of Vain and Naive when it opens, because that one also has both the note of rose and raspberry. So it's a very prominent note of raspberry as it opens up, gives it a nice, almost zingy, tangy kind of fruitiness that you'll find that's used with the rose in the opening of this fragrance. But again, as it starts to dry down, you get into some of the more familiar notes. Again, the brown sugar gives a nice, unique kind of sweetness. And again, you have amber, you have some patchouli and oud as well. Beautiful scent, man. Again, this one is really unique because of that brown sugar accord in the heart of it. So check this one out from the house of Atelier des Ors. This is called Rose Omiage. All right, guys, coming in at the 8th spot on this list, this fragrance comes from the house of Xerjoff, and this is called More Than Words. More Than Words. And if you like a fragrance, a note of rose, and you like a fruity, fresh, kind of floral combination, then this is the one that you probably would enjoy off this list. Again, has a melange of fruity accords in this fragrance that really give this fragrance a nice fruity sweetness as the fragrance starts to open up. Now, again, there's a host of floral notes in this as well. Again, there's too many for me to really go through. But of course, this one does feature the note of rose. That's the most prominent of all the floral notes in this particular fragrance. But man, I like this one because of the freshness that's maintained in this. There's ambergris in this as well. So again, it really remains fresh, really for the duration of the fragrance. And that's something that I really like about this one. A lot of the other ones on this list go in a really darker direction with oud, amber, patchouli, and things of that nature. But this one is really fruity and fresh. So if you like fruity and fresh, then this is the one that you would probably enjoy off this list. So check it out from the house of Xerjoff. This one is called More Than Words. All right, guys, coming in at the 7th spot on this list, this fragrance comes from the house of Armani from their Privé collection, and this one is called Rose d'Otterbee. Rose d'Otterbee from the Armani Privé collection. And man, simply put, this is the best use of rose. Probably, this one will be higher on the list if we were just looking at the note of rose itself. The way the rose note comes off in the fragrance itself, this would probably be higher. This stuff is divine, man. This stuff is just this is so good. This is so good. It's the typical rose oud combination. And the other ones on this list are a little bit more interesting from that standpoint. But just the rose note alone, it's a fresh, very realistic rose that's in this one. Man, this stuff is good. This stuff is good. This stuff is good. It's good. It's really good. If you have not checked this one out, if you really are looking for a really authentic smelling rose, again, it has a rose oud combo. So from that standpoint, it's not that exciting because there's not a lot of other things going on like some of the other ones that make them a little more unique. But man, if you're just looking for a quality rose fragrance, check this one out, man, from the house. This is the Armani Privé collection. This is called Rose d'Otterbee. All right, guys, now coming in at the 6th spot on this list, this fragrance, I've never talked about this fragrance on the list on my channel before, but man, this stuff is just good. I'm gonna go ahead and show you what it is from the house of Fragrance du Bois. This is called Siberian Rose. This one is called Siberian Rose. And listen, this is very different. It opens up, it's very floral when it opens up because you get the rose, but you also get a very prominent note of tuberose. Now, with that being said, it still doesn't go overly floral, which in my opinion for a lot of people would make it go overly feminine potentially because of the tuberose and the rose itself. But it does have pink pepper and cinnamon, so the spice, it gets a little spicy in the opening as well, and it really balances out the floral. So it doesn't go too floral. If you're a guy and you're kind of afraid of things that go really floral, especially with tuberose, you're safe with that one because of the cinnamon. Now, when it dries down, man, you get a beautiful combination of amber and patchouli. Now, to me, the patchouli in this one and the amber, the accord that it creates, it comes across more as a very warm vanilla kind of vibe. That's what I really get from it. You know, patchouli sometimes can come up really earthy or kind of sweet, more chocolatey. That's the kind of patchouli that you have in this. and it really works. It's a very interesting combination. Separates and differentiates this fragrance from any other rose fragrance on this list, because this is more about that sweet kind of patchouli and rose as it dries down with the amber. But it's a gorgeous fragrance nonetheless, so check this one out from the House of Fragrance Du Bois. This one is called Siberian Rose. All right, guys, coming in at the 5th spot on this list, this is where it all started for me, as I told you in the opening. This fragrance from the House of Omiage is called Lyric Man. This is called Lyric Man, and my bottle is super low, but I cannot take full credit for this one, as I said. This is one that the missus loves to wear for herself as well. But this is the fragrance that opened up my mind to the whole idea of wearing rose. And I loved it because you had the rose in there, but it was really not too feminine. I said, God, well, guys can really pull this off as well. And that's because of the musk as well as the incense. You know, of course, incense kind of gives that smokiness to fragrances. And this to me is just, you know, masterfully done. Of course, you get the rose, but you get the beautiful freshness in the opening from the lime and the bergamot. Again, as it dries down, where you get the rose, you get the incense and the musk that comes into play. This one you cannot go wrong with, man. So this is probably the one that I would tell most guys, if you are interested in venturing into exploring whether or not you can wear a fragrance that heavily and prominently features a note of rose, I would probably tell you this is a good place to start to really experience that. So check it out from the House of Omiage. This is called Lyric Man. All right, coming in at the 4th spot on this list, this fragrance comes from the House of Louis Vuitton, and this is called Ombre Nomad. Ombre Nomad. Now listen, this is probably the only one on this list that I wouldn't really recommend for women. Now listen, people can wear whatever they want, but this is not really the one that I would recommend for women. Again, I'm sure there's some women out there that could pull it off, sure, but man, this stuff is smoky, this stuff is masculine, and this stuff is really, really good. So again, rose and oud, but then this one you also have incense, and then you have that smoke, some more smokiness that comes in from birch and this as well. So this is really smoky, really incensey, really masculine, but man, it's really, really good, especially in the winter time, man. You wear this thing out and about, dressed up, you're gonna knock them dead. This stuff is amazing. So check this one out, man, from the House of Louis Vuitton. This is called Ombre Nomad. All right, guys, coming in at the 3rd spot. The top 3 was really kind of hard for me to choose. Honestly, I love all the fragrances on this list, especially the top 5. They got really hard at the top 5, but really, really the top 3, man. Sometimes I interchange, especially between the 2nd and 3rd spot. But a fragrance that I've loved from the moment that I put my nose on it, from the House of Bond No. 9. This one is called New York Oud. New York Oud. New York Oud has oud, rose, and plum. Those are the main notes to my nose. I think saffron may be in this as well, but this is just gorgeous. It has, I always talk about this Bond No. 9 fragrances have a Bond No. 9 DNA to it. I detect that very heavily in this scent, and that's what makes this fragrance so unique, comparatively speaking to the other fragrances on this list. Again, rose and oud, very commonly used, but nobody did it like Bond No. 9 did it. So one of my favorites of all time comes in at the 3rd spot from the House of Bond No. 9. This is New York Oud. All right, guys, now coming in at the number 2 spot, or the 2nd spot on this list, this fragrance comes from the House of Maison Francis Kurkdjian. One of my favorites of all time. This one is called Oud Satin Mood. Now this fragrance features 2 varieties of rose. There's Bulgarian rose, there's Turkish rose, and this as well. High quality ingredients used in this. Again, of course, there is oud, there is benzoin, and vanilla on the dry down of this fragrance, and this stuff is just magical. I love this fragrance. This is probably, honestly, if I had to say honestly, the best smelling fragrance of all. This is probably my favorite as far as the overall way that it smells, man. I absolutely adore this fragrance. One I'll always have in my collection, and one, of course, if you like rose outside of the Lyric Man, this is probably the 2nd one where I would tell you to start if you're a guy and you're kind of questioning whether or not you'll like rose fragrances. This is probably the 2nd one I would tell you to try outside of Lyric Man. So from the House of MFK, Amazing Francis Kirkjohn, one of my babies right here. This is Oud Satin Moon. And if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, 5 minutes or less, you know this is one of my favorite fragrances, probably my favorite fragrance in the world, from the house of Frederic Malle. Say it with me, guys. This is called Portrait of a Lady. Or, of course, when I wear it, it's called Portrait of a Man. And to me, this just paints the picture of a well-dressed gentleman that's going to get a lot of compliments. Because when I wear this fragrance, that's exactly what happens. I get a lot of compliments on this fragrance. Again, this holds the record for me for one day. I got 7 compliments in one day from men and women alike. Love the way this stuff smells on me. It smells very unique, especially on a guy. Interestingly enough, yesterday my wife and I kind of did it was kind of like an experiment. I already knew this, but it was really proven yesterday. A fragrance I'm going to talk about in another video. Apple Brandy on the Rocks smells totally different on men and women. And this fragrance as well, when I wear this, it smells different on me than when my wife wears it. And this stuff just works, man. A guy pulling this off, rose and patchouli, something about it is just magical, and it works. So this is my favorite rose fragrance. Again, unlike the others on this list, this is the one that features a prominent note of patchouli in combination with the rose. So I love this stuff. It's my favorite rose fragrance, probably my favorite fragrance in the world. From the house of Frederic Malle, this stuff is good, man. Check out Portrait of a Lady, or in my case, or some of the other guys out there, our case, is Portrait of a Man. All right, guys, that's it. That's my time, man. I hope you enjoyed this video as I talked about 10 of my favorite fragrances that features my favorite note, or one of my favorite notes, and that is the note of rose. As always, I sincerely appreciate your viewership, your time and attention. Watching this video, of course, you didn't have to watch, but you did, and I sincerely appreciate that. Now, if you don't mind, take a few moments at this time to go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Or make sure you just share this video out to some other folks that you think would find this video entertaining or informative. Either way, it works for me, man, because I'm your guy, the bow tie fragrance guy. I love looking good, and of course, I love to smell absolutely amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good, keep smelling even better, because I'm going to catch you. Flip side. Peace.